I thought you were gonna.
Good. We're gonna ready over here.
We're ready over here.
Yep. Anytime you are.
Welcome everybody, Town Monument Board of Adjustments for August 23rd, 2018. Before we start, usually we do the Pledge of Allegiance prior. If everybody would stand for that, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairman Bornstein?
Yes.
Board Member Kemple? Board Member DeMarco?
Present.
Board Member Wilhelmi?
Here.
Board Member Leschnapp?
Present.
We do have a quorum?
So, public hearing, we're here tonight regarding 1060 Night Blue Circle setback variance V01 2018. And I'll hand it over to my colleagues.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have a variance request before you tonight for the property at 1060 Night Blue Circle. I have a map on the screen. This neighborhood is fairly new and staff is unable to find an aerial that actually includes these homes. So we have more of a simple map tonight. The subject property is highlighted in yellow. This is in the Village Center at Woodmore neighborhood, south of 105, east of Knollwood, south of Monument Academy, to give you an idea of the location of the property we're discussing. So a summary of the request tonight. Again, this property is located in Village Center at Woodmore Filing 4. There is a PD site plan for that specific area, and it is in the PD site plan that outlines the required rear setback. Just a quick side note for anyone who may not be familiar with setbacks. Sometimes they're referred to as a required yard, right? Basically, a designated area, a certain amount of feet from the property line that can't be built in for the main structure, a house, something with a roof. Something like a flat patio concrete work does not have setbacks, or even something very small, like a small portable shed, the setbacks wouldn't apply. So this would apply to like an addition to your house, something like that. It applies to the project tonight. The applicants are requesting a patio cover, and because that is an extension of the roof, because it does have a roof, that is why this applies. So the rear setback that's outlined in that PD site plan is 20 feet. The applicant's home at its closest point is 24 feet from the property line, so it does meet that setback, but obviously that is a very small range in which they could do some type of addition or something like that without extending into that setback. The applicant is requesting a 10-foot variance, or in other words, to be allowed to extend 10 feet. Their setback would then be 10 feet, right? So it's the 20 minus 10, both of those 10s is a little bit confusing there. So a 10-foot variance, they would be allowed a 10-foot setback rather than 20. That's what they're requesting from you tonight. Monument Municipal Code Section 1780.020 does authorize variances for these types of requests, for setbacks, or again, rear yard is the other way that the code uses that term. And as I mentioned, this request is to accommodate a patio cover. And I'm going to go over some diagrams and photos and things like that to sort of outline for you so you can get a better visual of what the request is. So here, these are a couple of renderings provided by the applicant. Again, this is an extension essentially of the roof line to provide a still fairly reasonably sized patio cover. Cover their patio for some shade. I think you can tell the materials match the house. It's of high quality, and it's designed to, like I said, fit in and look like it was there all along, assuming that this setback was allowed. So the setback would apply to that roof line that would be, I'm sorry, not for the eave where it overhangs, but to those columns would allow that to be 10 feet from the rear property line. So I have a couple of photos that the applicant provided of the home. So this is the rear patio area that we're discussing. If we need to go back and look at them, I'm going to give you a few to put it in context. This is a little bit further back, so you can see that fence on the right side of the screen is essentially their property line. So at the closest point, that's about 24 feet to this furthest bump out of the home. And so that patio cover, which would go over this patio door, right, would extend, would still be 10 feet from the property line. Also worth noting, all of these lots, when they are platted, there's a 7-foot utility easement at the rear of the property that is obviously not being impacted by this request at all. That 7-foot utility easement is maintained. That's for utilities, so obviously you wouldn't want to extend into that, because then that could be torn up by a utility company. No one wants to deal with that. So that is still maintained. Here's another photo from a slightly different angle. I specifically talked with the applicant about this photo and sort of what this shows, because I think it's important for the board to understand. So this side that we can see, I think you can even tell from the photo, this side yard is actually quite large. And so I talked with the applicant about, well, you actually have some room over on the side yard where we wouldn't need a variance, but the fact of the matter is it just doesn't make sense to do a cover over there. The back door isn't over there, right? It just doesn't make sense with the rooms and the way that the house is laid out. And so that's why they're requesting, again, the patio cover over here in the rear, out from the back door, obviously where their patio is. So I want to highlight a few things. The applicant has provided an approval letter from the HOA. Certainly, the HOA does not supersede town code, but they do handle, you know, typically the HOA enforces things that are even more specific than our town codes. And so I think it's important to note that the HOA is fine with what they're proposing. In addition, the applicant has done some homework and spoken to a bunch of their neighbors. As a part of their submittal packet, they provided signed letters from all of the lots highlighted in green, their immediate neighbors, those folks that it seemed like would have potentially would be impacted the most, and all of those folks indicated that they were not opposed to the proposal. So just to highlight, the applicant's property here is lot 84, and so again, we have letters from the applicant, from the property owner directly behind, directly to the south, and diagonal. As you can see in from the map we looked at earlier, the property owner does not have neighbors directly to the north. There's a tract there, and then Highway 105. So it seems like most of those that would be impacted have knowledge of this and aren't opposed. Which is summarized on the screen as a part of the project analysis. Again, it seems like based on the review of all the information we have and what the applicant has provided, that doesn't seem like there would be any negative impact. And again, those people that could potentially be impacted seem to be in support of the proposal. As I mentioned, the easement along the rear property line is still maintained. There would be no impact to that. It just is impractical. It doesn't make sense to locate a patio over on the side yard, even though that's the way the house is sort of, the way it was sited on the lot. You have some room over there. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And then I also wanted to highlight that the public notice requirements found in the municipal code were followed for this. They're actually quite extensive, especially for a residential project like this. It goes through the exact same public notice as any other project that comes before the Planning Commission or the Board of Trustees. So it was put in the paper, there was a sign physically posted on the property, and property owners within 500 feet were provided certified mailings to let them know about this proposal. Staff did not receive any phone calls or inquiries about this project as of today. For the reasons that I've mentioned, and I quote some sections of the code here in staff recommendations, staff does recommend approval of the rear setback variance of 10 feet for 1060 Night Blue Circle based on the findings that there is practical difficulty due to the house siting on the lot and that the granting of the variance would not create any adverse effect public health, safety, or welfare. And again, that's quoting directly from the standards for variances in the code.
Okay. Excellent presentation.
Thank you, John.
Staff can answer any questions that you have.
Can we hear from the resident petitioning at
Of
this
course.
time?
Mr. Levy is here, the property owner and applicant.
Good evening.
Oh, no problem, I know your address.
Oh, I know my address. Hi. You want me to speak about this? Okay, so when we purchased our home in January of this year, it had already been completed, and we had no opportunity with the builder to have anything added on as new homes have, you know, as far as options go. We just moved here from Arizona, where covered patios are the norm, where we've found here not many houses actually have a covered patio. And we like to be outdoors. The weather is certainly more permitting here than in Arizona, where it's, you know, blazing hot all the time. And so we talked to we saw what was going on in the neighborhood as far as the homes that had covered patios, and we thought it would be a good idea if we wanted to enjoy ours, which has a western facing, gets the western sun in the afternoon when we'd want to barbecue and sit outside. We would be getting that sun right directly into us, and we thought it would be a good idea to look to put a covered patio in so we would not melt and burn while we were outside. And so we got a contractor who actually did our fence work, and he does this work, and we went over a bunch of ideas, whether it be peak or just incorporated into the existing roof line, and it just made sense to just add it so it looks like it was already there. Same pitch as the existing line, which is also, I think, set in the HOA guidelines of what the pitch could be, and just go out. I think it's 10-12 feet off the back of the property, or the back of the house. And we actually already poured, if you can go back to that picture with the,
This one?
yeah, that one. We already poured a new patio and have the holes already ready to go if the board deems it's approved. And we can hopefully have this done before the end of the year.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Thank you very much. This is a public hearing,
Yes.
so at first I would ask anybody who would like to speak in favor of this request.
Mr. Chairman, board members, city planners. My name is Malcolm Quentin. I live in lot 83 to the south of the applicants.
Can I get you
Sorry.
just to put your name and address down?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Write my name and address?
Yes, sir.
All right. I live actually in the house that you can see there, tan-colored house. The applicants provided me their letter of intent, which I signed. I received the certified letter. I encourage your approval.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this proposal?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The patio cover, will it be enclosed in any way? Because we have a view at our house of some of the trees and whatnot in the distance. And so I was wondering if it is just going to be open to where you can see through it, or will it be enclosed in any way?
I'll let my colleagues respond to that.
I would encourage the ladies from the audience to come and go ahead and
Yeah,
sign in,
could-
but
could you come
based
on
on
up?
the renderings
Yeah.
that we have received, it is completely open with only 2
Right.
stone columns. Thank you, just because this is the public hearing portion.
That's a great question. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Yes, please.
Thank you.
is Ryan Linnell. We live in the home directly behind them, so directly to the west, the probably closest neighbor that they have. Like we had been mentioned before, we received all the paperwork. Everything was signed off on by on our end. It does match really well with what other neighbors, like the neighbor just to the south, has done as well. So it will look good in the neighborhood. That kind of thing won't impact us at all, and we would also believe that approval would work out just fine for us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have anybody else that would like to speak in favor? No. Since this is a public hearing, oh, yes.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, I saw your hand go up.
She better approve.
Since this is a public hearing, is there anybody who would like to speak against this request? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Any comments or questions?
Just one question for Mr. LeConte. Were these the renderings that are submitted to the HOA?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are, to answer the other question, there is no intention to enclose that at all. It's not going to be a sunroom or whatever else you would call an enclosed extension.
Any other questions from the board? I just want to make a comment. You've got the greatest neighbors, number one, and you really did your homework. I'm very impressed by this. I'll bring it to the board for a motion. If somebody would like to make that.
I'll go ahead and move to approve project V01 2018.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And then just a roll call, please.
Board Member DeMarco,
I approve.
Board Member Wilhelmi,
Approve?
Chairman Bornstein,
I'll approve.
Board Member Lushna.
Approve.
With 4 yes votes, motion passes.
Thank you very much and good luck
Thank you.
on your new patio.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And with that, we need just a motion for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye.
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 Great. Thank you.
Well done, nice gavel.
Thank you. Hey, good luck.
I actually am putting my application in for next year to join you on the board as a volunteer in one of those positions.
Excellent.
I want to get involved in our new community and very much looking forward to being
Excellent. Why did this, we have some openings on planning commission, A. B, we have some opening as a trustee, which is coming up for election in November. If you're